Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze.
Betrayal is something that we've come to accept and acknowledge as part of human nature as well as life. But how does it go down in the footballing world? A big club has their best player, their maverick or their talisman, handing in an unexpected transfer request. And to see the move materialize, resulting in a transfer to a bigger club, which may actually be their sworn rivals, how do the fans react? What about when the board promises to bring in exciting signings that will take the club to the next level, and seeing all these promises go south? How then again do the fans react to that? And what about when players on a personal level have disputes and conflicts which involve a lot of sensitive issues as well? How do these things all go down in the footballing world? So we want to look at that in this exciting session that we have for you guys, where we look at the greatest betrayals in football history. So we want to dive right in with no delays whatsoever. So we start with Robin van Persie's move from Arsenal to Manchester United. So upon leaving the Netherlands with Feyenoord to England with Arsenal, we saw Robin van Persie develop into a fine young striker with Arsenal under the guidance of Arsene Wenger. But eventually he grew up to be someone who was thirsting for trophies and titles, and he felt Arsenal wasn't the right place to be if he was to achieve those ambitions and goals. Then came Manchester United with an offer to sign him in the 2012-2013 season alongside city rivals Manchester City, but he opted to move to Manchester United to partner up with Sir Alex Ferguson, who is known to be a sworn rival of Arsene Wenger and Arsenal, and that went down negatively with Arsenal fans. But then he went on to eventually win the Premier League trophy with the Red Devils, and I think this is one of the things that Arsenal fans hate about that move, the fact that he actually went on to achieve what he wanted immediately in his first season with Manchester United. But then after the departure of Ferguson, we saw how things went down for him. He spiraled down into oblivion and eventually had to force a move to Turkey with Fenerbahce. But this is a transfer that didn't go really well with Arsenal fans, and we have it here as one of the greatest betrayals in football. So next on the list we have Sol Campbell's move from Tottenham Hotspur to their sworn rivals in Arsenal. So I believe Spurs fans had this young chap coming up, and they just loved the prospect of having him in their side for a number of years. But little did they know that he had greater intentions, greater ambitions of joining up the side that could bring him trophies upon trophies, and he felt Arsenal's team were the best for him in that moment. And so he joined up with Arsene Wenger and trying to build up a dynasty, a revolution. As you saw, they had one of their remarkable years, going unbeaten in the 2003-2004 campaign. And that is where we saw Sol Campbell being an important figure in achieving that feat. So he moved on to Arsenal in 2001, and that is what Spurs fans saw as an act of betrayal, an act of treachery. And I think he couldn't care less about this, because he went on to win trophies upon trophies with Arsenal, and it was relatively a better decision from his viewpoint to move on to this side. But nonetheless, Spurs fans see him as a traitor. He arguably goes on to become the most hated player in Spurs' history. So this move was one that Spurs fans dislike up to this day, and it goes down as one of the biggest betrayals in football. So next on the list is one move that on a personal level as well I feel is an act of betrayal. So this was Mario Götze's move from Borussia Dortmund to Bayern Munich. So this was a young chap coming up the ranks in Borussia Dortmund who had a lot of promise. One who was started to be arguably one of the best youngsters as at 2012, and he was going on to go and do great things for his club, that was Dortmund. But little did the fans know that he had other intentions in mind, and he was interested in a move to Bayern Munich as at 2013. And interesting enough, this was a Dortmund side that was building up and eventually was preparing for a Champions League final, only for them to be heartbroken with this disclosure of the news by Mario Götze a number of weeks before the final, and that was his intent to move out of the club and agreeing terms with the Bavarian side. So this was one transfer that went down as an act of betrayal and treachery by the Dortmund fans. I think it's one that I feel he actually regrets making, because we saw what happened. He had unsuccessful years with Bayern Munich and eventually was the prodigal son who decided to come back to Dortmund. He was labeled as a Judas by the Dortmund fans, but eventually they accepted him back, and he failed to get things running back for him in his career. But now we see him going on to PSV Eindhoven in Netherlands, trying to get back his career on a good term. At an age of 28, and I feel things have been a little bit late for Mario Gotze, but let's see what happens with that. But I think this transfer from Dortmund to Bayern in 2018 was one that has gone down as one of the greatest or biggest betrayals in football. So next on the list is Gonzalo Higuain's transfer from Napoli to Juventus in 2016. So this was a move that I think went down by the ultras of Napoli as an act of betrayal. We saw this guy moving from Real Madrid to Napoli in a 40 million euro move in 2013, where he had a successful stint in Naples, where he was able to come up with 91 goals in 146 games and was idolized by the fans of Napoli. But in 2016, there was a move on the table where he was supposed to move to Juventus for a 90 million euro deal, and fans thought this was one that was a no-brainer for Higuain, where he was going to stay for a number of years with Napoli, but he had other plans for himself, and that was to force a move out of Naples to go to Turin with Juventus. And we saw it happening, and it was one move that actually De Laurentiis downplayed, only to see it materialize. And again, as I said, the ultras of Napoli were completely disappointed with Higuain with this move, and up to date, even on his first return back at Napoli, we saw him with boos, jeers from the fans, as well as toilet papers with his face imprinted on them thrown at him as well. So obviously this was something that Napoli fans were displeased about, and this should also go down as one of the biggest betrayals in footballing history. And now we have the sensational move that involved the Portuguese maverick in Luis Figo, where he moved from Barcelona to Real Madrid as of 2000. So this was a young Portuguese sign from Sporting Lisbon in 1995 who was wondrous, who basically mesmerized the Catalonian fans with his wonderful feats and how well he was as a footballer in terms of his technique and his abilities. And they actually thought this was one guy who was going to stay with them for a long time. But then in 2000, Real Madrid came up with a 62 million release clause offer, where they actually activated his release clause and then went on to see the move happen. And this was one move that Barcelona fans saw as an act of betrayal as well. I mean, moving from one big side in Spain to another. Not just that, but also between two clubs that are probably the biggest in Spain was one that the fans saw to be inappropriate. But then this was just the beginning of a rivalry that we've been seeing over the years between the two clubs. That's actually gone down even in their duels in El Clasico. But then for Figo, this was a stepping stone, and this was an act of advancement to him, because in 2002 he actually went on to win the Champions League with the Galacticos, and en route to the final he actually met his former employers in Barcelona, where he actually defeated them in the semi-finals. I think that this actually made things worse between him and then the fans of Barcelona, and this is also a move that actually went down as one of the biggest betrayals in football. So next on our list is that of Ashley Cole's move from Arsenal to Chelsea in 2006. Again, this was a young English fullback who was fantastic, who actually felt he deserved more from Arsenal. And with a contract renewal of £55,000 per week on the table, he saw it to be meager. He saw it to be undeserved of his actions, of his contribution to the club, and wanted something better. And then came Chelsea with a £90,000 per week deal for him. That is what he went for. Arsenal fans saw it to be an act of betrayal, and one where he was only involved and interested in the money. But for him, he felt his efforts were deserving of something better, and that is why he felt Chelsea's move and Chelsea's offer was the right one for him. So in 2006, we saw the move happening with William Gallas moving in the opposite direction for Ashley Cole. And I think to this day, Arsenal fans are still displeased about the move. But he felt, this was one move where he needed to make because he was going to get something that he deserved. And on his return to Emirates, he saw, booing and cheers from the Arsenal fans, as well as fake £20 notes being thrown at him, and with the nickname Cashley also, given to him on this move as well. So again, for Arsenal fans, this was a big betrayal on the part of Ashley Cole. Next on our list is Carlos Tevez's move from Manchester United to their city rivals in Manchester City. So as of 2007, an agreement was reached for Carlos Tevez to move from West Ham to Manchester United. But then with constraints on the part of third parties, this deal was only supposed to be settled as a 2-year loan deal, at the end of which United had an option to buy the Argentine. So in his 2-year loan stint, we saw him coming up with 2 Premier League triumphs as well as the ultimate Champions League triumph in 2008. So at the end of his 2-year stay, there was supposed to be an agreement reached between West Ham and United to make the deal permanent. Little did they know that the Argentine had other plans in mind to make a move to Manchester City, and that happened with a 5-year deal on the table. Not only was this a move of treachery and betrayal, but actually in 2011, after Man City's FA Cup triumph, he held up high a sign given to him by a City fan that read RIP Persie. I think this is something that went down really bad among Manchester United fans, and to this day they hold as a strong act of betrayal and treachery by Carlos Tevez. So the next act of betrayal on our list involves Borussia Dortmund once again. So in this move, it involved the Polish striker Robert Lewandowski, and he moved on from Dortmund to their rivals in Bayern Munich. So for Dortmund, this was expected to happen, and for them, they were interested in renewing the Polish hitman's contract, only to find out that he was disinterested in renewing his contract. And so for them, the best move was then to help him move to a club overseas for some money. He was interested in running down his contract and then joining the Barbarians in the process, and this obviously went down as an act of betrayal by the Dortmund fans. Okay, so he ended up moving to Bayern Munich after running down his contract, and the worst thing was that it was for free, and so this was no money gained by Dortmund. Not just only that, they ended up upgrading, actually improving, their worst enemy in the country as well. And this was, one of displeasure. This was an act of displeasure, an act of betrayal by Robert Lewandowski to Dortmund fans. So our final act of treachery, of betrayal in our list here involves one of 2 individuals, 2 former teammates in Icardi and Maxi Lopez, and we had Wanda as the prize here. So in this whole controversy, what happened was that these 2 guys, Maxi Lopez and Icardi, were teammates in Sampdoria as of 2010, with Wanda, the wife of Maxi Lopez, and with that they had 3 children as well. But as time went on, we saw something of an interest from Wanda towards Icardi, and that was seen in the acts of invitations during vacations as well, which Icardi probably saw to be normal. Down the line, we saw a divorce as well between Maxi Lopez and Wanda, and eventually that came with a hookup between Icardi and Wanda. And this was seen as an act of betrayal by Maxi Lopez, and he saw it to be uncool to see his divorced wife, come together with a friend of his. And so this resulted in a boiling up of bad blood between Icardi and Maxi Lopez, even to this day. And I think this is one issue, act that people talk about almost every single time up till now, and that is why it takes the king as our greatest acts of betrayal in football. So we hope you liked our countdown. We hope you liked our selection of situations of betrayal. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to comment on what you think about our selection and about the issues that we discussed right now. So we hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to look forward to more videos from Sports Analytica, and hope to see you soon. We'll talk to you in a while.